Hardline conservative lawmaker Sanae Takaichi has become the first female Japanese Prime Minister. We have details coming up next. Hello and welcome to Press Perspective. It is Wednesday, October 22nd here in Seoul. I'm Min Sunhee. Japan has ushered in its first female Prime Minister, and for more on this historic event, I have Ruy Valdes with Spanish news agency EFE Spain here in the studio. Ruy, welcome back.
Nice to be here, Sunhee.
I also have Professor Choi Hyun Jin at Kyung Hee University live on the line. Professor Choi, it's great to have you on.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Right, we will start here in the studio. Ruy, before we delve into the broader implications of this political milestone over in Japan, do walk us through the events that took place after Sanae Takaichi won the ruling Liberal Democratic Party leadership earlier this month.
Right, yeah, well, I will take a liberty here just to point out what many of us know, that in September, Shigeru Ishiba, the predecessor, announced that he was going to step down. And then, of course, they did the elections where Takaichi won. She was one of the favorites, and of course, it created a lot of noise because if she was to win, she will become practically the prime minister, which will be the first woman to occupy this spot in Japan, which is a country, as we will speak afterwards, where the gender gaps in terms of positions in power it's very wide still compared to other advanced countries. So then she wins this election, but then in October 10, one of the main alliances of her party, the Buddhist party Komeito, announced that they were going to break down this 26-year alliance. This created a lot of turmoil within the Liberal Democratic Party because they were not sure how they were going to manage to get all the parliamentary seats or enough support for her to win. This was related to some discussions that they had, so some disagreements they had about talks over stricter rules on corporate and group political donations, controversial appointments of a lawmaker. And well, after that happens, then the Takaichi party manages to make a pact with the party Ishin, or known as the Japan Innovation Party, and finally they managed to get enough support to practically virtually secure the win. In October 21, this week, backed by these new alliances, Takaichi won with 237 of 465 votes in the lower house, and then prevailed in the upper house, which was less relevant because the lower house is the one who determines it. And with this, well, she became the first women prime minister of the country.
Right, making history, of course. What do we know about her?
Yes, Prime Minister Takaichi has a very peculiar background. She started as a TV host. She, of course, has a lot of experience already in the government. She has served as a Minister of Internal Affairs, Economic Security, and Trade and Industry. And also, well, she's some consider her as a protege of the late Shinzo Abe, which probably is the part that raises more questions on how she's going to deal with issues related to South Korea. She also has this particular background that she used to play the drums in a metal band. So she's a very complete figure, let's call it like that, with a lot of experience, as I mentioned, in the government. And she has mentioned that she's a big follower of Margaret Thatcher. We know also that she is, some people even will consider, I don't want to call extreme, but a hard right stance ideologically. This also creates controversy or uncertainty on how she will deal with, in terms of the relations with South Korea, historical relations. She has visited many times, practically every year, the Yasukuni Shrine, where some war criminals are buried, and which always is a part of a cause of conflict between Korea and Japan. But when she finally got the alliance and everything seemed aligned for her to become prime minister, she decided not to visit in October 17, very recently. And that was interpreted as a sign that she could have a less extreme position in these terms compared to Abe, which was actually the last prime minister who visited this shrine. Still, there's many questions in the air about what would be her position, but definitely, if we were to say, or what many pundits' opinion is that the dismissal of Ishiba stepping down was a cause of high concern in Seoul, because he had a good relationship with the current president, Lee Jae-myung, and also he was more open to these conciliatory policies between the two countries. So that would be it.
And before we touch upon bilateral ties under the new leadership in neighboring Japan, Professor Choi, generally speaking, what do you expect with regard to her foreign policy based on what has been shared about her political activities and interests?
I believe her foreign policy will likely be very strong and also security focused. And I think she will try to keep Japan's security alliance with the United States as her top priority, especially with Donald Trump visiting Tokyo next week. But at the same time, this visit will be a very early and difficult test for her, because she has only a few days to prepare for big issues like defense cost sharing and Japan's trade investment in the United States. At the same time, Prime Minister Takaichi has long supported a stronger Japanese military and also changes to the Japan's so-called peace constitution. For example, expanding the role of Japan's self-defense force in East Asia. So we may see a more confident Japan in dealing with China and North Korea in this perspective. And she also shares, as Ruy noted earlier, many of former Prime Ministers Abe Shinzo's idea, such as promoting free and open Indo-Pacific region and building closer ties with Taiwan. But however, this kind of her conservative idea, and for example, on past history, could make relation with South Korea a bit more sensitive. But in general, I expect her to follow a strong and independent foreign policy, and that will focus on national security of Japan and a stronger military alliance with the United States and Japan's greater leadership in East Asia.
Right. Staying with that then, Professor Choi, with regard to ties between Seoul and Tokyo, do you believe she'll seek to pursue the current amicable partnership between these two countries?
That's a very important question. So on the surface, the Prime Minister Takaichi has said that she supports stronger ties with South Korea and also deeper cooperation with both Seoul and Washington. And during the campaign, she even called for a deepening Japan-Korea relation and a stronger trilateral security cooperation with Seoul and Washington. But in reality, the things may not be so simple. So Takaichi is known for her close connection, as I said earlier, to former Prime Minister Abe Shinzo, and shares many of his conservative ideas. And for example, she has visited Yasukuni Shrine several times in the past, and also she supports Japan's claim to the Dokdo Islands, for example. And this issue is really sensitive in South Korea, as we all know. So if she continue with these kind of actions, public anger in South Korea could grow very quickly, and even if her foreign policy says otherwise. So also, she's leading a minority government here in Japan, and her coalition partner is a right-wing political party in Japan. So this kind of a domestic political landscape could push her to take a harder stance toward the neighboring country. So even if this kind of policy could hurt diplomacy with South Korea. So in general, I strongly believe that she wants to maintain the current positive relationship and partnership with South Korea. But I want to point out there is some political risk that some domestic political pressure in Japan and also some symbolic actions, such as visiting the Yasukuni Shrine, could damage relation with South Korea. So to avoid this kind of possibility, I believe that stronger communication between Tokyo and Seoul is very important.
Right. Ruy, speaking as a foreign journalist based here in this part of the world, and also keeping in mind, of course, the current state of global affairs, what do Seoul and Tokyo look to gain from cooperation over confrontation?
Yes, as Professor Choi was mentioning, one of the main gains of this alliance is in terms of security and defense. Even with Ishiba, of course, he had a more liberal stance or open stance in terms of the topics related to South Korea, but still pundits were saying that in a way, he was pushed by the current circumstances to strengthen this association with Seoul. And I will explain. As compared to the past, what the new Prime Minister Takaichi will face, it's a panorama where North Korea, where Pyongyang has strengthened the alliance with China. Just recently, we saw it in the Beijing military parade. And this could force her, in a way, he will have like two forces, as Professor was saying. He will have the domestic forces that might pull her to go more to the conservative side, but the international setting seemed to be pushing her probably in the other side, that she has to be more open and friendly to Seoul in the face of Pyongyang that is getting a stronger alliance with China, a stronger alliance with Russia, more advanced technology in weapons, etc., etc. Other part that was mentioned about the benefits of this cooperation between both countries, it comes with trade uncertainties. I don't know if we remember, but before Lee Jae-myung had the summit with Trump, he visited Ishiba, and some pundits were speculating that probably they were getting ready together, Japan and Korea, in terms of how to deal with Trump, which is a very unpredictable agent. So in a way, the new Prime Minister Takaichi could also be benefited by cooperating with Seoul in terms of how to deal with this new phase of United States in terms of trade, in terms of tariffs, in terms of these new deals or deals that are stagnated, among other things. There is a third element that could also benefit cooperation, which is that both countries share very low birth rates, and they have a very elderly population. By sharing this, they also can cooperate in finding solutions to these problems, which are a big threat to their economies and their social health in general.
Right. Keeping in mind what Ruy has just said, and Professor Choi, you earlier talked about the importance of communication between the two countries to ensure that their relationship remains on track. That being said, if you were an advisor to both Seoul and Tokyo, what else would you propose to ensure the bilateral ties do indeed remain on track?
Yes, if I'm such an advisor to both countries, I would emphasize one key message. That is, cooperation between the two countries is not optional. It is necessary. So we are seeing increased military cooperation between Russia, China, and North Korea. And at the same time, the United States under Donald Trump administration is showing weaker leadership within its alliance. So within this international landscape, if Korea and Japan fall into conflict, it would create a major security risk for both countries and also for the region as a whole. So both governments must see this clearly. Cooperation is not about political friendship. It's about protecting their security and the key national interests. And based on this background, I would make this kind of advice. First, I would urge Tokyo to avoid any kind of symbolic actions that could provoke emotional reactions in South Korea, like visiting the Yasukuni Shrine or sending top officials to Dokdo relay the ceremony. So these kind of symbolic moves could easily destroy years of progress between the two nations. And secondly, I would ask Seoul to be steady and avoid politicizing every disagreement. Even if there are some differences between the two countries, both sides should focus on shared goals, such as economic security, also regional defense, and advanced technology. And finally, I would propose a regular bilateral dialogue channel, including shuttle diplomacy between the two leaders and also exchange between official experts and also even young people to build the trust between the two countries that can continue beyond the political cycle.
Right, a very practical approach, if I may say so myself. Ruy, beyond foreign policies, the foreign media has been quick to touch upon Prime Minister Takaichi's potential impact on promoting family-friendly policies to perhaps advance Japanese women's presence in the professional arena. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, this was an expectation based in her own statements. She promised she wanted to take female presence to Nordic country levels in the government, in the cabinet. But disappointingly for many, she only appointed 2 women in her team, the finance minister and the economic security minister. That's the same number that his predecessor had as a woman in her cabinet. So this is the first big question mark people are having of this administration. And again, if we follow what she has stated in the past in terms of her opposition to separate spousal surnames and the male-only imperial succession and this conservative stance in terms of gender, it only seems to, this last move only seems to show that she will maintain, or at least in the short term for now, she's not opening the door as she was pledging in one of her comments to women in this high-ranking position. Just to put things in context, Japan ranks 118th of 148 countries in the WEF Gender Gap Index. This is the lowest in G7. Women hold a very small share of top spots. Within the party, within her party, only 13% of lawmakers are women, and the target is 30% by 2033, which limits the pool for ministerial role. She has mentioned she wants to support certain family-friendly policies to put women in the labor force to have a professional development. Things like supporting women's health, including menopause care and hospital access, and also things related to child caring and in another area among elder care too. But still, the signals, the actions she has done so far, we're talking about just the first days, still seem to be more on the conservative side.
Right. Meanwhile, Professor Choi, Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi, she is slated to make her international debut here in South Korea next week as she attends the APEC leaders meeting in Gyeongju. What do you believe will be her priorities?
Yes, I believe her priority at APEC meeting will be to show her strong and responsible image, not just to regional leaders of APEC country, but also to Japanese people back home. And she will want to show that she can represent Japan confidently at a time of global uncertainty. And at the same time, she will likely use this opportunity to reassure to key regional partners, such as South Korea and the United States, to showing that Japan remains committed to economic cooperation, supply chain resilience, and also regional security cooperation between the three countries, Japan, South Korea, and the United States. But finally, I think she has to be also careful as well, because this visit comes at a time when many in South Korea are still unsure about her ideas on past history and also territorial claim. So I think her tone and the choice of words in the APEC meeting will matter a lot. But in general, I believe that this APEC summit is a great chance for her to build the diplomatic trust and strong leadership to the entire world.
Right, which will probably also be the case for quite a number of global leaders here in the country next week. All right, Professor Choi, as always, thank you very much for your insights today.
Thank you very much.
And Ruy, as always, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you, Sunhee.
Right, that ends this edition of Press Perspective. Thank you for watching. See you same time tomorrow.